At 8 years old, a little boy in Argentina cried himself to sleep, not because of hunger, not because of a bad dream, but because his body was betraying him. His legs weren't growing the way they should. His bones weren't developing normally. Doctors gave his family a devastating verdict. Without daily injections of growth hormone, this child would never grow tall enough to compete professionally. The treatment cost $1,500 a month. His family didn't have it. Rosario, Argentina, a working-class city where dreams are big and money is small. Jorge Messi worked at a steel factory. His wife Celia raised 4 children in a modest home on a dusty street. They were not poor in spirit, but they were poor in options. And now their youngest son, the quiet one, the small one, the one who barely spoke but somehow lit up the moment he touched a football, needed something they simply could not afford. Think about that for a moment. The greatest footballer who ever lived almost never got the chance to play. But before the diagnosis, before the injections, before any of that, there was a ball. There is always a ball. Lionel Messi first kicked a football before he could properly read. His grandmother Celia, the woman he would one day dedicate every goal to, pointing his fingers to the sky in her memory. She was the one who first brought him to training. She saw something in this tiny, silent boy that others overlooked. He wasn't loud, he wasn't tall, he wasn't physically impressive in any way. But when that ball touched his feet, something happened. He moved differently. He saw the game differently. While other kids chased the ball, Leo always seemed to know exactly where it was going before it arrived. At age 6, he joined Grandoli, his local club in Rosario. By the time he was 7, he was embarrassing boys 3 and 4 years older than him. His coach didn't know what to call it. His teammates didn't understand it. His grandmother just smiled. She knew. But then came the diagnosis: growth hormone deficiency, and suddenly, a gift that seemed destined for the world was locked behind a door that money needed to open. His father, Jorge, tried everything. He approached Newell's Old Boys, the local professional club where young Leo was already becoming a legend in youth football. He begged them to fund the treatment. They said no. He went to River Plate, one of Argentina's most powerful clubs. They watched Leo. They were impressed. But when the conversation turned to medical costs, they walked away. Imagine being that father. Watching your son do something magical every single day, watching other people's eyes go wide when they see him play, and then watching those same people turn their backs because of money. But Jorge Messi did not quit. He wrote letters, he made calls, he fought in the way that only a desperate, loving father can fight. And somehow, a connection was made, a contact in Spain, a club called FC Barcelona. In the year 2000, a 13-year-old Leo Messi flew to Barcelona for a trial. He was small, he was quiet, he spoke almost no Spanish beyond his Argentine dialect. He knew nobody. He was in a foreign country, trying out for one of the most prestigious football academies on the planet, La Masia, where boys were already being groomed to become professionals from across the entire world. And at first, Barcelona weren't sure either. The technical director, Carlos Rexach, watched Leo train, and then he watched him again. And then he did something remarkable. Something that became one of the most famous moments in football history. Because he didn't have paper, Carlos Rexach wrote the contract offer for Lionel Messi on a paper napkin. A paper napkin. That's how desperately he wanted to sign this boy before anyone else could. Barcelona would fund the medical treatment. They would pay for the growth hormone injections. In exchange, this 13-year-old boy from Rosario would leave his country, leave his friends, leave his grandmother, leave everything he had ever known, and start completely over in Spain. He was a child, and he said yes. What followed was not a fairy tale, not yet. Leo arrived in Barcelona and found himself completely alone. His father was there initially, but had to return to Argentina for work. His mother and siblings eventually came, but the transition was brutal. He was placed in an apartment complex with other young La Masia prospects. He was shy. He was homesick in a way that hollowed him out. And on the pitch, despite his talent, some coaches weren't sure how to use him. Some teammates resented the attention he received. There were whispers. Is this kid actually worth all this investment? There were moments when Lionel Messi, the boy who had sacrificed his entire childhood for this dream, sat alone in his room in Barcelona and wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. He was 13 years old, thousands of miles from home, injecting himself with growth hormones every single night, just to have the chance to play. And then the football took over. Because you cannot teach what Lionel Messi had, you cannot coach it, you cannot manufacture it. In training, in youth matches, in every single touch of the ball, it became undeniable. This wasn't just a talented boy. This was something the football world had never seen before. La Masia's coaches began to realize they weren't just developing a player. They were witnessing the emergence of something historic. He rose through every youth category at Barcelona faster than anyone before him. And on October 16, 2004, at just 17 years and 3 months old, Lionel Messi made his first team debut for FC Barcelona. He was officially the youngest player to represent the club in La Liga at that time. But even then, the world hadn't seen anything yet. His rise wasn't slow. It was a flood. Season after season, the records didn't just fall, they shattered. In the 2011-12 season alone, he scored 91 goals in a single calendar year. 91 goals in 1 year. A record that football historians say may never be broken. He won the Ballon d'Or, the award given to the world's best player. Not once, not twice, but 8 times. 8 times the world voted and said, there is no one better. He led Barcelona to 10 La Liga titles, 4 Champions League trophies. He became the club's all-time top scorer, then the all-time top scorer in La Liga history, then the all-time top scorer in Champions League history. The records kept coming until people stopped being shocked by them, because it simply became expected. Messi scores, Messi creates, Messi wins. But there was one wound that refused to heal. Argentina. For years, Lionel Messi carried the weight of an entire nation on his back, and it nearly broke him. At 3 Copa América finals and a World Cup final, Argentina came close but couldn't win. The criticism was savage. Some said he wasn't a real Argentine. Some said he saved his magic only for Barcelona. After the 2016 Copa América final defeat, Messi stood at the microphone and announced his international retirement. He was 28 years old, and he was done. He walked away. Except he didn't. Because there are people in this world who are simply not built to stay down, who cannot accept that their story ends in defeat, who have something burning inside them that forces them back, even when every logical voice says stay away. Messi came back. And in 2021, after decades of heartbreak, Lionel Messi lifted the Copa América trophy with Argentina. Tears streaming down his face, his teammates mobbing him, an entire nation erupting. But that was only the beginning of the ending he deserved. July 2021, the Copa América. December 2022, the World Cup. In Qatar, at the age of 35, an age when most footballers have long since retired. Lionel Messi played the greatest World Cup of any individual player in the tournament's history. He scored. He assisted. He carried Argentina through moments of impossibility. In the final against France, one of the greatest matches ever played, Argentina won on penalties, and Messi lifted the trophy. The one that had haunted him for 30 years. The one they said he would never win. The one that critics used as proof that he wasn't the greatest. He lifted it in the Qatari night, wrapped in the traditional bisht robe, tears in his eyes, the golden trophy above his head. And in that moment, there was nothing left to argue about. This is why Lionel Messi matters beyond football. Not because of the trophies, not because of the goals, but because of what his story means. A boy whose body was broken was told he might never grow. A family that couldn't afford to save their son's dream. A child who crossed an ocean alone at 13, injecting himself every night just for the right to compete. A man who was criticized, doubted, dismissed, and rejected by his own nation, and who came back anyway. He came back every single time. The same boy who cried himself to sleep in Rosario because his family couldn't afford his medication became the undisputed greatest footballer in the history of the world. His starting point was not his destiny. His struggle was not his ceiling. And every time the world told him his story was over, he simply picked up the ball and wrote another chapter. That's the lesson, not just for athletes, for every single person watching this right now. Your circumstances do not define your ceiling. Your pain does not determine your potential. And the moments that feel like endings, those are often just the beginning of something you cannot yet imagine. Lionel Messi didn't become the greatest despite his struggles. He became the greatest because he refused to let them stop him.